Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I think when it shares.
Okay. All right, folks, we are ready to roll. So thank you all for your patience. We are delighted to have this opportunity for several of our Teaching and Learning Center directors from across the state to share what they got from the pod conference with you. So what we're going to do is everyone's been muted upon entry, except for our panelists, of course. So we're going to ask them to each spend about 10 minutes talking about what they learned from the pod conference, giving you some of their key takeaways. And then at the end, we'll open it up. If anyone has any questions or comments, we can kind of have a little bit of a dialogue. So I'd like to present to you, we have David Bruno, Melanie Morris, Beth Ritter-Guth, and Lilisa Williams. So thank you all for agreeing to present today. I'll be the one kind of changing the slide. So if I don't move, one of you will just tell me, please advance it. And David, when you're ready, we'll have Donna share your documents for you. We're going to get started with Beth, and Beth is going to share a general overview of the pod conference as a newbie and first timer at this event. So Beth, it's all yours.
Thank you. So thank you for inviting me to talk about it. It was really an exciting conference because we don't actually have a learning center at Union County College. We're building one. So I was, historically, I was faculty and I taught, and then I moved over to administration. And I've done a lot of partnerships with other learning centers at other institutions. And I've, obviously worked with writing labs, as part of the instructional process. So I have a general familiarity, and I have an absolute support for learning centers, but I didn't actually know what it was or know what it is, and since we don't have one and we're building one, I was really going into this experience hoping to get a lot of ideas about things that we could use here at Union. Every institution is very different. So whether you're at a 4-year school or whether you're at a 2-year school, whether it's public or private, so I was really looking for ideas of what we, some pitfalls that we should avoid, and then some things that we should absolutely want to include. And I didn't know the lingo. So when I got to the conference, they actually do a really good job of onboarding people. I think somebody has their open mic is making tons of noise. So I didn't know what to expect, but they do actually, the pod conference does a really good job of onboarding new people. So definitely, like if I were recommending this to somebody else, definitely recommend going to the conference. Definitely go to those onboarding events because they really do help you get used to the way that the schedule works and some of the language that's used. Like if you're not familiar with it, there are a lot of initials. There are a lot of acronyms and things that you just I had never heard of. And so it really helped. And then it really helped to go to those sort of newbie events. And it also helped to find somebody who had been there before and having a partner friend. So I made friends with some Canadian women and it was really nice because we had dinner together on the night that you have dinner. And it was really fun, but they also helped kind of gear you toward things that are interesting. So the lingo is just a little bit scary only if you don't know it, but you do get used to it after a while. And if you ask people, everybody's really friendly. So you can ask them what does that mean? Or what is that? There are a lot of initials, and it made me more conscious of the sort of the lingo that we use at our campuses and that we use in New Jersey. We want to be sure that we're clear. And sometimes, we get used to the acronyms and we don't, and people who are new don't understand us. So that was a good lesson even to learn. I made awesome connections. I still have connections that I've made. Melanie and I, for example, have worked together on different things, but because we were there together, and Lilisa and I have worked together on different things, but because we were there, this group of 4, we've become closer and have ideas. And so that's really great because now Melanie is when I first met Melanie, she was in a sort of a half faculty, half administrative position through a campus grant or something like that. And now she's back into faculty. So it's always good to get perspective from different areas of what's realistic for faculty to do and what's not realistic. And that changes depending on the kind of institution you have and the kind of expectations there are for promotion and tenure. So it's always really just great to have other voices to hear. What I really liked about Pod was that there were sessions on theory, which can be a little heady to me because I'm more of a practice-based person. I like hands-on stuff, and I like to do things. I like to get my hands dirty. I like both, but I always gravitate toward the practice-based stuff. So there was a lot of balance, and I think that they try to pick sessions or develop sessions that have a balance of both. And they probably have done that better than any other conference I have, where you're doing a little bit of theory and then you're applying it. So there was theory and practice and theory and practice. One of the frustrations that I had is that some of the presentations didn't have enough supplies. So if like in my theory, it's like if you're going to have a hands-on thing, make sure that you either have supplies for everybody or make it an activity that doesn't require supplies. So that was just, like a little takeaway and a lesson to learn as well, is that when you do a presentation, if you're going to go hands-on, make sure that you have your stuff, because that was frustrating. And then of course, make sure that the rules and the process is really clear so that people know what to do. There are so many practical takeaways, and I could take up all of your time, but there are 3 other lovely people to speak to you. But the thing that I took away the most that I loved is I'm always looking for ways to help the sort of the theme that I went away with is that we do so much intrusive advising for our students, especially at the community college level. We want to catch those students before they fail out. We want to get them before they check out. But we don't necessarily do that for our instructors. We don't have intrusive advising for our instructors, so community colleges, we're built on an adjunct faculty, right? So I really went away thinking, wow, we need to do more to help our adjuncts, especially, and our full-timers too, to make them feel like that we're looking out for them and that we're helping them and that we're helping them get stronger. Because if I help an instructor get stronger here, then that instructor goes over to Middlesex to teach too. It helps us all in New Jersey to really pay attention and to care for and to care about our adjunct population. So one of the techniques that I took away is this intrusive team evaluation, I don't want to say team because it's not team, it's really just a duo, right? So the instructional designer or the learning center director works with a faculty member that has given permission. You pull the data from the past 3 years from their student evaluations, from their grades, and then you look at the course and how it's changed. You take renditions of the course, and then you kind of look at all of that data, and then you meet with the instructor and you look at where you see some trends or where you see some patterns, and then you think about ways to improve or make sure that there's always praise involved. And as part of that process, in the beginning, you ask the instructor what's something that you want to work on, so that you're paying attention to something they really care about. And then you can also kind of fold in some other things that you observe. And I did that. I came back to Union and I did that with a very willing professor. What I found is that we didn't have enough data. I didn't have enough data because because of the way that our processes work, there weren't enough years of data and there weren't enough surveys completed for the evaluations in his online classes. So that let me see something about how our system works. We have to really increase the online evaluations. We have to figure out a way to get more students to complete them. But the overall process and working with him, the meeting that we had where he identified what he felt were his strengths and weaknesses, that was a really great conversation. And then looking at the data that we could find, it wasn't a complete picture, but it was holistic as well as it could be. It was just a really great conversation. And I thought if I could do that more, and then do that with part-time instructors, it would be phenomenal. So the practical takeaway was awesome. I was able to use that, and there were all little tricks and things and other little kinds of tiny things that I'm sure other people are going to talk about, but that was the big mo that I took with me, is this way to help faculty and help them be stronger instructors. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity to go. I appreciated that the council had this opportunity for us. So thank you for putting it together, Dr. Harrington.
Yeah.
It was fabulous. So I will pass the gauntlet to the next
Okay.
year.
Well, thanks so much, Beth. That was great to hear. I'm so glad that you found it helpful. I just want to share Beth's contact information should you want to get in touch with her to ask her more about it. So you can see that is posted here right now. And the slides and this video will be posted on the Center for Student Success website as well. So let's go ahead and we'll shift gears and we'll talk about how to design and deliver a workshop. So Lilisa, you're up.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for having me be a part of this webinar. And I would like to, before I get into the actual meats and potatoes of the workshop that I really thought was so beneficial to me, I would just like to say that as the Director of Faculty and Staff Director, my role is to make sure that we have workshops that are engaging, workshops that are effective. I mean, if we're asking people to, really spend their time and take their time to attend these workshops, and then on top of that, if we want them to get something out of it. So when the announcement came for the opportunity to apply, go to this conference, just like with our students, we're always concerned about what will their takeaways be, what will be the outcomes of what they're learning. And so we want to know what is it that we want them to know or do. So for me, I wanted to know how to run an effective workshop. That was really important to me. So, and I think that the entire conference was set up as a model. So for instance, it was like a game. So they had it set up as if you were going to like a racetrack. They had the when, the place, the show, and the exacta. Those were different kind of categories. And so depending on whether you are brand new to faculty and staff development, such as myself, or if you were a seasoned person, returning, time after time, they also had workshops for different levels. And they had the agenda color coded. So there were just so many little pieces that I really took away as this will be, just great example, model for a workshop. From the moment I walked in, and everything was really popping for me, so I really enjoyed it. Never mind the fact that it was in a beautiful place up in New York. So when it comes to doing a workshop, these are just some basic kind of steps that you want to make sure you have in place, because I believe that the person who delivered this particular workshop, Billy Francini and Susan Kleiner, these individuals, they really did their research to really come up with things that really work. So the first thing is you want to conduct that needs assessment. And being a person that have given workshops in the past where I didn't always know exactly what the attendant or the participant needed, I felt that this was good information to know. And even if you don't have a lot of time to really send out a survey and find out the needs of everybody ahead of time, you can always do it, as they had stated, right there as you're doing your workshop. You could take the first 2 or 3 minutes of your workshop to just ask people, what is it that they expect to get out of the workshop? And then from there, you would set some goals of what you would like for your participants to be able to know, do, or feel, much the same way we do with our students and when we're building out our classes and our class outlines. So I just felt that, that was very useful and helpful, because again, working with faculty members and working with other staff who were kind of used to this process, I just felt that, this would really work great here at Hudson County Community College. And then I want to share those goals with the participants. So again, once the participant is in the room, for instance, I have a workshop next week, some sales tips. So I'm going to let them know what we want them to do. We want them to be able to close more sales. We want them to be able to close more opportunities for people to take some continuing ed classes here at the college. So again, I'm applying the lessons that I learned at this conference in June. I'm actually applying it in real time. So I'm really excited about that. Also to include relevant and content materials. Again, so if I'm going to do a workshop on sales, I want to make sure that I give them content that is going to help them be better at sales and also better at marketing, customer relationship, knowing their customer, knowing their clients, and knowing what to say when they're face-to-face trying to sign someone up for a continuing ed class. Then the next step you want to do is you want to include an opportunity for each person to take at least one action step. Again, if you don't take action, what good is it, right? So when I do the workshop, I'm going to have them actually come up with an action step that they're going to do that's going to help them get a close or a win or help them sign someone up for their continuing ed. And then you want to also have that strong follow-up. Now, you also want skills for delivering a good workshop. So it's one thing to prepare the great workshop, but what are some of the skills that you want to have in place so that you can have a successful workshop? Well, you want to have effective speaking skills, so that's always important. So even if you have to take a Toastmasters class or some other type of speech class, it's great to have good speaking skills when you're doing a workshop. You also have to be able to demonstrate good listening skills. You want to be able to listen to the people in the audience. You want to be able to hear when people are, being a little bored, or you want to be able to hear if there's some type of question that you might be able to address in your workshop. And you also want to listen to hear if people are actually getting what you're talking about. And then you want to practice good facilitation skills. Again, we don't have to be the quote unquote sage on the stage, but we can also, because especially when you are working, I notice when I'm working with faculty, they bring a lot of, adult learning, techniques and adult learning behaviors, is that they know a lot. They already know a lot of information. So I want to be able to facilitate more so than just, telling them what to do. And then the next thing is to be able to provide those helpful resources. And that can happen before, during, and or after the workshop. So we can email them things beforehand, articles, information, surveys, or what have you. We can also distribute those through the workshop and at the end. And that way people feel really engaged. They really feel like they got something. And then they really feel like they walked away with something and they can, that they can use. Then we want to use an approach that uses a sensory, that's multi-sensory in nature, because there's all different kinds of people that could be, participating in our workshops. Then we want to encourage the participation from all the participants. Again, we don't want to force people to, talk or participate. So we just try to do like little simple things to encourage, make people sit in groups or hand everybody up. Like I know Beth, I'm glad you said that, Beth, about if you're going to do handouts, please make sure you have enough. It's even better to have more than what you need. That way, if you want to, you can leave dates off and things like that. You can always use it later. But the worst thing is to have to try to run around at the last minute and make copies of things or to run out. So you want to definitely be prepared if you want everybody to participate. And then include some questions and answers at the end. So for those individuals, maybe they didn't get to participate anywhere else, but at least if you leave a little time for answers at the end. And then the last thing for a skill to have is to have great feedback. You can do that through the evaluations. So that's what I really got the most use out of, is workshops. Being new to faculty and staff development, I've been doing this for a year now. I really want my workshops to be something that people can really benefit from, and it could be a benefit to them, and that they can really walk away and know that they've actually gained some information. So thank you. That's all I have.
Well, thanks so much, Lilisa. Appreciate you sharing your tips on developing effective workshop and advertising that. Here is Lilisa's contact information. If you would like to get in touch with Lilisa, I know she's more than happy to talk this talk with folks, so feel free to reach out to her. And now what we'll do next is we'll go ahead and turn to working with faculty fellows. So Melanie, the floor is all yours.
Thanks so much. Glad that you guys have me. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Because I don't see the green lighting up, but I guess because that's me, right? So I'm actually a member of the faculty at Raritan Valley Community College. I'm a co-director for our Center for Teaching, Learning, and Scholarship, and we have rotating co-directors. So right now I work with another colleague, Michelle Brazier, but next year there could potentially be two others sort of taking our place. So we are entirely faculty driven, and that's why I decided to talk about faculty fellowships, because they're at the core of our center. Before I dive into that, though, I wanted to share with you the 5 conference tracks, because I found them in and of themselves to be particularly meaningful. Faculty Fellow workshop came under the partnerships, collaboration, networking, and leading on your campus and beyond. But the other ones, I have them here on my phone, which I will share with you. The lead conference track was the big picture, educational development and higher education as a field of study. So there was a great deal of theory that was available at the conference. And then we had the basics for those that were educational development technicians and developing their competencies as such. And then we had 3 sort of topic-driven tracks. One was pedagogy, one was educational technology, and then one was partnerships. And that was the one where you found faculty fellows and also those related programs. And so you can flip to the next slide. I'm using the term faculty fellow to mean a short-term opportunity for faculty to engage in the work of the Center for Teaching, Learning, and in my case, and scholarship, because we also serve in a scholarly capacity to support our faculty. I think it's important to define that term at the outset because the term can be used drastically differently and not necessarily relating to the Center for Teaching. So you might have, let's say, in your institution, a service learning fellow that's working with the service learning program, and that doesn't come under your umbrella, and that's okay. So I'm talking specifically folks that are working within the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Scholarship. There's a 5-step process to utilizing faculty fellows that we talked through in this session. But I will also share with you that the vast majority of what you gained was really learning about how the various schools and representative presidents were using their faculty fellows and the great parameters and the big broad spectrum upon which faculty fellows were contributing to their centers for teachings on their campus. So the types of things that you would think about in terms of needs are who it is that the faculty fellows are going to serve. Are they going to serve your center? Are they going to serve other faculty? Are they going to serve in administrative arms of the college? So I'm familiar with one program where the faculty are actually going out and working on more administrative tasks to sort of create a conversation and shared lingo, as Beth would say, or terminology around that project. Or are they serving themselves? There are numerous faculty fellow positions where the faculty fellow is working on their own project and as a side contribution that will have benefit on their campus, but really the direct beneficiaries are going to be their own school students or their own scholarship. So why do you have the faculty fellow program? What's the need? And then how is the program going to address the gaps that you see? I thought within this conversation, I could just add how Raritan is using faculty fellows because our program is sort of unique. And in fact, we went through this process in developing our structure, even though we didn't know it at the time. We're not completely through it. We're still on step 5. So I'll tell you about that when we get there. So at RV, we started with 4 faculty fellows, and our need was programming. We wanted to designate faculty to develop the programming. And so our 4 faculty fellows are in the area of 1, pedagogy, 2, technology, 3, scholarship, and then 4, a special topic. And this special topic rotates from year to year and is proposed by the fellow themselves. So you can see almost the overlap between the service areas to the Center for Teaching. Are you going to serve other faculty? Are you going to serve our students directly or administration? As an example of the special topic, this year we're doing active learning spaces as a special topic. So the service area for that fellow is extraordinarily broad, all areas of the college. And then once you decide on what your needs might be, you can flip to the next slide. We will look at what your goals are going to be for this program. And one of the things that came up over and over again is why fellows versus something else, some other structure, and why is it specifically when you're thinking about your goals that faculty fellows are filling the need better than some other way to fill the need, let's say an instructional technologist, for instance, or somebody who is a consulting from outside the institution. So why fellows on RV? We decided that we wanted to heighten the ability for us to attract faculty to the center to take advantage of all of the resources and support that we have here. And we sort of speculated it might just be our culture, but I would imagine that a few other schools have this culture too, that faculty would like to learn from other faculty. And so we went and we decided our programming would be by faculty for faculty. And that's why Faculty Fellows made sense for us. We also wanted to have a diversity of programming, and that's why we went with the topical alignment. So we wanted to always make sure that somebody would be aligned with the center that could work with faculty on classroom technology that was a faculty member. And so that's why we separated out, say, technology from pedagogy and have a separate fellowship line for that. We also rotate, so what are some of the other goals? To make sure that sort of everybody has a chance, we rotate programming. So the first month of the spring semester might be the pedagogy programming, and the second month might be the technology programming, and then the third month might be scholarship programming. So that was another goal that we had, to make sure that we were constantly offering diverse programming so that we would find something for everybody's interest in the center. Right now, it seems to be working. Last year, we had 62% of our faculty take advantage of something at the center, which I understood at the pod network because I asked people. That's a very high number, so we're pretty proud of that. And right now, we're trending at pretty much the exact same number, so that's awesome. And you can go to design. So the next step would be to design the program itself. So you figured out what your needs are and what the goals are. So how are you going to design the program to work well for your institution? What sort of actions or activities are faculty going to engage in? And in my opinion, this is where a lot of the conversation got really rich, because there was some concern about having faculty that were sort of assigned to a project that didn't get done. And so, and I would imagine, it doesn't happen here, of course, but I would imagine that it's happened at a few institutions. And so the conversation really focused sort of really deeply on how to appropriately design the fellow program so that you wouldn't wind up with incomplete projects at the end of the program. And some of the ideas were touch points in terms of developing action items across a timeline. Others actually tagged the pay or the compensation, depending on what the faculty was receiving, to a specific deliverables on a timeline. And so there's a lot of opportunity to design around what you need or want. At RV, our design is our faculty fellows have 1-year appointments, either in the topical area that they've chose to apply in or in a special topic that they propose. And then we rotate them basically, so there's 4, so then 2 and 2 turnover. So they're each on a year. And we do give our faculty fellows a choice of some modest course release or a small stipend, depending on what fits best with their teaching level. And that works well because some of our faculty are also program coordinators, and it would be very difficult for them to take the course release, while other faculty would prefer to have the course release and do a deeper dive into their topical area and maybe supplement their research during this time period. So that's our design. Next slide. People, who? So how is it that you're going to find out who's going to serve in this role, and then how are you going to integrate them into your unit? So for us, we didn't struggle too much with integration because we're all faculty. So my co-director was commenting yesterday, I'll share this with you, that one of the most joyous times in our week is when our team gets together for our sort of bi-weekly meetings, and that we get sort of those 6 educational development focused people in a room to debrief that week and then look forward to the next week or the next big event. And it really is very joyful to share that. So we didn't have to do too much integration with outside. But some of the conversations here focused on what will be the relationships between, let's say, the instructional design team and the educational technologists. What will be the relationships, with the faculty fellows. What would be the relationship with the dean structure, within the dean structure, or the director structure with, let's say, the Office of Assessment or the Office of Service Learning, or a leadership office if there is one, and those sorts of things. and then where it is that you would house them. Would you bring them to the center? Like, would they relocate for their office space? Would they still be housed wherever they ordinarily would have been housed? Our center is really fabulous, but it doesn't have office space. We sort of rejected that idea. We wanted to have more communal space. And so for the most part, we do go back to our offices. We have one shared office and 6 of us occupy it. And it's about the size of the room that I'm in right now. So you can imagine. We also have a separate IT area. So while we do like to have conversations with that area and create synergies when they're there, we don't do the instructional design piece for the LMS currently. But it is a spectrum, and probably the answers to those pieces depend on the project that you've developed for your faculty fellows. So next slide. Evaluation. So this sounds an awful lot like assessment, but it's so important. This is the stage that we're currently in. So we've had our faculty fellows for 2 years, and we need to undergo an in-depth evaluation of how well it's working. So some of the things that we're finding is we do have to have a constant stream of willing volunteers to assume those roles to sustain so many fellows on a 1-year rotating basis. And it's not always easy to recruit that those new ideas and those new people into the stream. So is our program, the way it's operating now, going to be the way in which we'll operate it long term, or will we have to tweak or adjust it? I don't know what the outcomes will be, but we'll need to evaluate now. And so also, in addition, we talked about evaluating in progress. There were a few schools that sort of confessed that they had fellows programs where in the middle of the fellow program it was working really well, but there was one fellow where it wasn't working well for, and you sort of want to have an opportunity to make a midpoint correction too. So how will you do that? And that you have to think about that in terms of your pay structure. If you're going to offer a midterm correction, how would that potentially take place? And then finally, how is this going to be disseminated and how? We have an annual report, so all of our fellows take opportunity to submit to the annual report. Each one of them collects assessment data on each of their programs, and they aggregate it both for themselves and then for the center, and they share out satisfaction and feedback in those assessment pieces as well. So, but we will be undergoing a full-scale evaluation, which is probably important in any sustainable fellow program for the long term. And so this was extremely helpful to me because as I think about evaluating our own program, it's going to provide some guideposts and new questions to ask for our center. And it was a great opportunity. So thank you, Christine, and to the council for offering it. And that's me.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Melanie. Donna, do you have me on? Why is it doing this? It's giving very strange feedback.
Oh, this slide. You can just see, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to both see where these questions came from, but then also to see how our action item was set up so that if you wanted to set up something like this in your own institution, you could with the questions that I gave you.
Well, thank you. Thanks again, Melanie. And here is Melanie's contact information. So if you'd like to reach out to Melanie, I know she also was more than happy to talk with folks about this and want to hear more about what she's doing either at Raritan with her faculty fellow program or what she learned at the pod conference. You can go ahead and reach out. And now, last but not least, we have David who's going to talk about a course wrapper. So David, floor is all yours.
Thank you. And really what we did with this course wrapper is really apply it to a need that we had here at Camden County College in regards to a self-assessment of one of the areas that we deal with in administration, which are faculty special projects. So just a quick presentation outline, what I want to kind of go over very quickly, and really one is the institutional history. So what's been going on here at Camden County College that really necessitated some kind of form or different approach to what we were doing with these special projects. And then just want to look at the actual document that was shared at the Pod Network, which was called the CTE course wrapper. And then how we made some small adjustments to the document to apply it to our needs here to create a self-assessment form for faculty special projects. So if you want to go to the next slide. So just a little bit of institutional history. One of the areas that we were looking at to find ways of improvement with is the area of faculty special projects. And here at the college, faculty can volunteer outside of their normal teaching load for non-teaching assignments on campus. They could be administrative assignments, they could be things connected to the classroom. We call them faculty special projects or faculty projects or special projects. Lots of different names for them depending on who you talk with and the person involved. Typically, these special projects are compensated by course release or by stipend. So depending on what the request is, there's different ways to receive some kind of compensation. And they're either approved annually, so it's usually a year-long project, or they're done on a semester-by-semester basis. The area that we've had a lot of difficulty with is how it is applied here at the college with all the transition that's happening in leadership. We've gone through several different positions, have seen some turnover. The vice president's office, myself moving from faculty to an interim dean position. And this transition led to gaps in regards to the effectiveness of these special projects. So while things were being approved maybe on a yearly basis or a semester by semester basis historically, we didn't really have any evidence to show whether or not, one, how effective they were, and number two, should they be continued. So this is where we really stepped in. We tried to find ways to really address this, and we could begin to document this. So really what we were looking to do is we're looking to see how to proceed with the projects that have been historically approved, and then how were they assessed for effectiveness, or were they assessed, and really the need for documentation. Go to the next slide. So at the Pod Network, one of the final sessions that I attended was the CTE course wrapper, and bells and whistles and dings went off in my mind saying this could work. And there sounds like someone in the background there. Good coincidence. But this really seemed something that we could really apply directly to the college here in regards to helping us with this documentation of these projects. So this document was originally adapted by Mary Goldschmidt, one of the presenters at Pod, and she's at the Center of Teaching Excellence over at Duquesne University. And what they use in the CTE course wrapper form is really a self-assessment form that takes on a formative approach of assessment, but it's really reflection-based. So it gives the participants an opportunity to really reflect on the positives and the negatives of the experience that they're dealing with. Now, with what Mary was using it for, they were using it for assessing courses at the end of the semester with just small groups of faculty. And it seemed to work very well. It was very well received by our faculty, and it gave them the opportunity to talk about what was effective in the classroom, what was not effective, and areas of improvement. And really the goal was to drive discussion. And what we did here at the college here is we looked at different ways that we could apply it. And we wanted to use this really to assess faculty projects at the end of the semester or the year. And really, again, same idea is to drive discussion for project renewal. Donna, can you show the first document that I sent?
Okay, hang on one second. I'm going to stop sharing so Donna can go ahead and share. So Donna will share the document.
So if you look on the right side, and the one that she's moving, this is the CTE course wrapper. This was the document that was created by Mary. And as you can see, there's several parts. It's a 2-page document. The first section is section A, which is really the project overview, that big experience of the course. And it really gives several points that you want to answer, and you want to really pick one that you identify with the most, and it gives you an opportunity to talk about your experience. In part B, they focus on a specific teaching activity or some kind of learning activity. So they want to talk about what it was, what happened that went so well, and how we can use this in different perhaps situations, and what would it look like. And if you want to scroll down to part C focuses on the obstacles that you might have had in that classroom experience, dealing with the learning experiences of the students and how you were able to overcome them. And then letter D is a section called Attending to Who You Are. So it's really that how it affected you. How did that course itself affect you in some particular way? So how did you care for yourself? and in what ways was the course consonant with the person that you are? How to make you a whole person? And then the last part at the very bottom was a next step. So what are you going to do next? So taking this document, we focused on the areas that we thought really matched what we were doing with the with the faculty project form. And as you see in the other document on the left side, this is the one that we adapted for the college. Again, we wanted to really look at the overall faculty project experience. So we just adapted some of the terminology that she used and really focused on the whole experience of the faculty project. In part B, we wanted to talk about a specific area of the faculty project that you thought went very well. Usually these experiences or these projects are semester long or even full year long. So it gives an opportunity to focus on a specific activity that they thought was beneficial. That part specifically, actually that first page, we almost kept the same. We changed some of the terminology, but we really didn't see the need to go too far outside of the box to make the connection to what our need was here at the college. If you want to scroll down to the next page, the obstacle part, and this is the part that we expanded on. I really wanted to see faculty share the issues that they've had. Again, the goal of our form was to build discussion and to really look for whether or not this project should be renewed. And I wanted to know what challenges that they had throughout this process. We didn't include the section D, the attending to who you are, for two reasons. Number one, for time constraints. Again, we knew this document was already starting to get a little bit longer as we added a few questions and expanded a few thoughts, and we didn't want to go beyond the 2-page limit of this. And the other reason is we want to save this. We want to see how this form is being received, and again, we have full intentions of perhaps adding this back in at a later date. And then the last part, which is the next step, as you can see, we took the one question and really became it 3. Number one, I wanted the faculty to really express whether or not this project should be renewed. I wanted something in writing that really said, yes, this was worthwhile, or maybe this is something that was that was finished and was completed and no longer needs to take place here at the college. The next question was, what's one thing? How can we make this faculty project work better for you and the college? And the last part we added, and I thought was very useful, was what do you need to help make this project better? And specifically, what kind of professional development could we offer through the college to really improve on this experience? I will say this is the first semester that we're using this form. Again, we modified it over the summer, almost right after the pod network had finished. We implemented it just within my own division here at the college for the fall semester. Thus far, I've received several back from faculty members who are looking to renew their projects for spring, and it's been very well received. Number one, it's a very simple form to use. It touches on a lot of personal aspects that were involved with the project, and especially that first section, part A, where you can just really identify something that really matches your experience with the project, and it really gives them a sense of being able to describe the experience in more of a narrative way. And more, I guess, most importantly, in closing, it's a good way to document the experience, and that's something that was certainly missing. We did require reports for these projects, but the reports seem to be very factual. These are the things that we accomplished, and that was it. This really gives us something, whether or not the experience was positive, what challenges that they had, and really get a sense as to whether or not this should be continued going forward. So again, I'm more than willing to share our document, what we modified with everyone, how it could be applied at your specific institutions. And we really didn't want to use it in the core sense, but we wanted to use it to identify and to really reach a need that we had here at the college. And that's pretty much it, Christine.
Okay, I'm going to go back and share my screen once again. Hang on.
Yeah, I had one more slide at the end, but again, I was just touching on it while we were looking at the documents.
Okay, so we have
just the changes. So these are the similarities of the documents that I touched on, and then the next slide. If you look at the next slide, these are the differences that that I mentioned. And the last part. If we stay on this slide just for a minute, and I want to touch on this. Really was an an institutional approach, and really we wanted to look at ways that the entire college could participate in this process. We didn't want it just to be faculty member discussing the project, perhaps with the vice president or the dean, we really wanted to begin to share this and to make sure that the entire institution knew what was going on, what was working, what wasn't working, and especially as we tie in these professional development activities, we now can identify the needs or the greatest areas of need and really begin to focus on those for some of our future professional development activities. And then the last slide, I think, is my contact information. Yes. The only thing that's missing here, and I apologize, is the school. I'm from Camden County College, so I do apologize.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that information, David. I really like how you took, something that was designed to talk about faculty and their courses and find some other, ways to utilize that approach for the projects that
thank you.
faculty do. So excellent. Thank you so much. So I'm going to try to see if I can figure out I'm going to unmute everyone. So be warned if you're on the line. If you need to mute yourself back up, you can, but I'm unmuting you right now. That will enable you to go ahead and ask any questions or make a comment. So does anyone have any questions or comments for anyone on our panel today? This is when everyone gets shy on the webinar type questions are tough to ask. If you would like to ask a question, we'll pause for another moment to give you an opportunity. Go ahead and feel free to jump in or make any comments if you'd like.
Can I make a comment, Christine?
Yeah, sure.
So I don't know what the opportunities are going to be this year, but this was a very valuable experience. I guess it's every 2 years they do this.
So the new faculty development pod conference that they offer in June is every other year. So it will not be offered this year. They do have a pod conference, an annual conference, which is like end of October or early November every year. So we didn't do that this current year because we had just sent folks to the one in June, but we could certainly take a look at that potentially for next year if funding allows for another mini grant kind of opportunity.
Right. And this, one of the things that I found really extraordinary about this conference over all of the other ones I've been to, and Beth touched on this, is the amount of sharing. But it's not just really in-person, face-to-face sharing, it's also digital sharing. Everybody had repositories up of all sorts of documents, and they said, take it, borrow it, adapt it, love it, credit me if you like it, credit me if you don't. And it was really wonderful to have that, because now I've got this document repository where I can go and pull something out like David did and adapt it, as opposed to trying to think about how to do it myself and then having to tweak it along the way. So I think for that alone, this was really valuable, and that the membership itself pays for itself because of those sorts of resources that they would also be sharing on their listserv if you post a question.
Excellent point. And clearly individuals and institutions can seek out, becoming a member on their own if they'd like to do that. It's kind of beneficial if you are going to go to a conference. I think it turned out to be less expensive to become a member and register than to even register by yourself. So they try to encourage that membership, and I certainly hope that folks are able to do that on their own campus if funding allows for that. But I'm really glad to hear it. I mean, this is amazing at how quickly you were able to take what you learned and put it into action. And it seems like every single one of you were really kind of taking information, bringing it back home, having dialogues, and hopefully, the goal of why we targeted this particular conference is because we think that obviously teaching and learning is at the center of what we do at community colleges, right? That's really at the heart of what we do, but it really is also at the heart of the Guided Pathways movement that we're trying to help colleges move forward on. The best way, I'll say it time and time again, the best way to increase our chances of students being successful is to really focus on what we do in the classroom. And I know many of you are either new to having teaching learning centers, don't have teaching learning centers yet, have some folks who can help and support folks, who are trying to do the best that they can in the classrooms. And we have many, many, many talented faculty across the state, both in the full-time, capacity as well as part-time capacity. But the truth of the matter is many of them, kind of learned by doing and by experience and haven't always had formal training opportunities. And I know at least, my home institution at Middlesex, many folks are really very hungry for those kinds of opportunities to talk with fellow colleagues about how to teach, not what to teach. They have that part down, but how do you really teach effectively? And as a faculty developer, like you folks in that teaching and learning center or professional development specialist role, that's your role to really help faculty be the best that they can be. So we really thought that by helping you, you're going to make the most impact really in the classroom by bringing that back to your campuses. So I'm just delighted to hear that that's really what's happening. So thank you. Thank you all for that. Let me pause to see if anyone else has any other questions or comments.
I'll just say thank you very much. I'm intrigued with the course wrapper idea actually for talking about courses. And I wonder if that would necessarily be applied for a group of faculty teaching the same course, or could that also be applied across departments with people who just want to put a wrapper on their semester and reflect?
Again, I can handle that. It's not something that we did, but that was the intent behind the course wrapper with what Mary Goldschmidt had done. I could see that working very well within a department itself or across departments within a division or at the entire institution.
Mm-hmm.
I will say again, just the document itself, it's so easy to work with, and it really touches on a lot of different areas, again, of the positives and negatives of the experience, be it with assessing a course itself at the end of the semester, or what we're doing with faculty projects, that I don't see too much faculty resistance in really completing it, and it really gives them a sense of accomplishment and maybe a stepping stone as to the next steps as to how to improve for the next semester going forward.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
I was going to say, and please, if you want to share your email address, if you want to share it with Christine or myself somehow, or if you want to copy down my email address, which I think is still being shared, I'll be more than willing to share the document with you that not only that Mary had shared with my with the group, and again, she gave us full permission to use it as we see fit, but also I'll share the document that we created here at Camden County as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Great.
Melanie, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I do actually. We're going to be doing it, the course wrap-up version of it here at Raritan as our last professional development here in December, and we're going to actually also adopt some of the protocols that the presenter talked about, such as inviting people down for hot chocolate and cookies.
Yes.
And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to put out coffee, tea, hot chocolate, and cookies, and it's going to be a casual drop-in, and people are going to get to come down and reflect on their courses. Mm-hmm. And as the faculty member, I think this is really actually sort of a great idea, because we think about it all the time, and we say, I want to change this, and this next time, and then we don't write it down, and then we go on break and we come back and we look at the syllabus and we scratch our heads and we say, what do we want to change again? And so this will be a nice summative document so that we can go and focus on that in the spring.
Okay, that's
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks so much, Melanie, for that.
Sure.
All right, we are just on the top of the hour, so I will just pause real quick to see if anyone has one last question. Otherwise, we'll wrap up in a moment. So let me pause. Is there any other questions out there or comments?
Thank you again for the opportunity. It was really,
Absolutely,
it was
yeah.
really transformative.
Awesome.
Not from that background, so it was really great.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for your ongoing commitment to student success and, using faculties as a vehicle to get there. So really commend you and all the amazing work that you're doing each and every day to support student success. And for all of you that are on the line as well. And I hope that we'll be able to offer some other opportunities similar to this, and perhaps this one again in a couple of years, when it comes around again. And so I just want to thank all the presenters for taking the time to share what they learned, and thank all of you for participating. So thanks so much, everybody, and I'll wish you all a happy Thanksgiving.
See you December 1st.
That's right. Oh, yeah, December 1st and December 19th. We still have spots available. The enrollment is definitely growing, but please don't forget to spread the word and get your faculty colleagues invited both on December 1st and also on December 19th.
I'm so excited.
Yes, it's going to be great. Great times.
Yes.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care,
Thank
everybody.
you.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Bye.
You as well.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Have a great holiday weekend.